Hey guys, it's book review time. I just finished reading this one and I should probably show it to you like this, right? So you know which book I'm talking about. Treachery of Swans. I got that recently in a book subscription box. It was it a Lumicrate? Yes, in a Lumicrate. So I just finished reading this and I want to talk about it, and let me warn you, the review will not be without spoilers. So consider yourself warned. So this is sort of a reimagining, or is drawing from Swan Lake, which is, Tchaikovsky, the ballet, blah, blah, blah. But funnily enough, my main reference point for that is this animated 90s movie that I had on VHS when I was a kid. Was it called The Swan Princess or something like that? Anyway, that's not the point. What I was trying to say is I was intrigued by the idea, and I was curious to see where the author Poranek, would take us with this. I'm not impressed, unfortunately. Overall, I found the book a bit mid, and well, let me tell you why. My main issue, first and foremost, is with the main character. Let me explain the plot to you for a second, so what I'm about to tell you will make a little bit more sense. So, in this magical world inspired by France, which we can tell by the vaguely French terms used for everything, there is magic, but magic has gone. There's still like itty bitty little bits of magic left somehow. And we have that main character whose name is Odile, and her father tasks her with stealing the king's crown, because that thing is magic. And to do that, she impersonates another young woman. That woman, in the meantime, gets turned into a swan. She impersonates her. Her task is then to go marry the Dauphin, like the Prince Regent. And then, as they get married and he gets crowned, steal the crown. So far so good. That could be interesting. But what bothers me about all of this is that the main character, Odile, is constantly whining and being angry about the fact that people don't swoon or fall over for her, and they're essentially distrustful towards her. Like, girl, you just impersonated somebody. You were planning to rob them. Why do you think they are distrustful towards you? What are you expecting? Because then, like, a real crime happens and suspicions are thrown towards her and they think it was her, which she has no right to be angry about this, because if anything, that is a reasonable assumption to make when 5 minutes ago you were actually planning a different crime to roll out here. And I think this is one of the examples or let me take another step back. She had a rough childhood, and the father she's working with is sort of an adoptive parent who took her in, right? And he's sort of manipulating her, and I get that. She had a rough past. She didn't have it easy in life. She doesn't have it easy now. But this is a prime example of, just because you had it hard in life, or just because you have problems, doesn't mean you get to treat everybody else like shit. That is not an excuse. Repeat it together with me. That is not an excuse. Okay? So that was already my main problem, and I do recognize that we have character development, and she becomes better towards the end. But still, she was like this for a huge chunk of the book, and it irritated me so much. My next big gripe with the novel is that the magic system is woefully underdeveloped. I feel like we get by for a long part with just saying, magic vanished. It's not here right now. It's not in the room with us. We just have this like little crumb of magic, and that's all we have, so we don't have to properly explain anything. But still, by the end of the book, I still have so many questions. And just, this is what made the book interesting to me, this whole system of magic and how it works. And for example, to cast a spell, you sort of weave spell threads that are like sort of golden. And I really was digging this. I thought this was interesting, but there just wasn't much there, not much world building in that regard. And that was very, very sad. And that sort of really took away from the story for me. And maybe also a little bit in the lane of underdevelopment and just not enough world building. There are quite a few things that don't make sense. Let me give you one example that really confused me, and this is very, very heavy spoiler territory right now, so I warned you again. So in the book, there is this monster that showed up and attacked and killed the king. And then the monster shows up again and kills somebody else. And then at some point, it turns out that this monster is actually the crown prince. And apparently he had been cursed, and whenever he experiences strong emotions, he, without knowing, turns into that monster. And apparently turns back without completely noticing anything. Okay, so they explained that they hid it because his stepmother gave him some herbs that sort of suppressed his magic. I have so many questions here, because this is not lining up at all. First of all, was she there for the birth? Did she drug him right away? Because otherwise I foresee big problems with a baby. And we do learn that his mother died essentially when he was born. But that would still mean that that woman would have had to be present. At some point in the book, it is mentioned the king married her and he first gave her like title or something so he could marry her, which means there had to go preparation into this whole thing. So I do feel like there is a stretch of time where things could have happened, where things could have gotten wrong. And also this is something they apparently hid from the prince's entire life, which is a whole other problem. And then again, so she just never let the prince out of her sight. What if he was traveling? What if he, I don't know, forgets to drink the tonic she made him? Well, then. Also, we do learn then that he transforms, and there is a scene where he transforms in front of people, and essentially the description is like, you can literally, see his limbs lengthening, his back expanding, and whatever. And that is how it is explained. So now my question is, the prince doesn't notice, he also doesn't remember that he did the things he did after coming back to normal. Do his clothes transform with him or something? Because I would assume if his body just starts randomly expanding, those would be torn to shreds. And I would argue that if he wakes up naked afterwards, he should be concerned. Also, in his capacity as a monster, he literally eats people, so he should be covered in blood. Does the blood just vanish when he turns back? Otherwise, he would be covered in blood, which, again, I have questions about. So those are just, the book never really answers that. And to me, no, it just does not really make sense. I'm sorry. And then what was another weird take was the ending of the book. Because the book comes with an epilogue, and quite frankly, the epilogue was just about as annoying and unfulfilling as the one in Harry Potter. Because, again, we're in spoiler territory. So there is the last chapter where this other girl she's crushing on gets turned into a statue, and then Odile, who freed magic or parts of magic, goes out to find other types of magic and more info she can learn to turn her back. And this sort of felt like the setup for another book or an entire book series to just keep going with the story to finally explore magic. And then there is the epilogue, and the epilogue just says, she's back. She's walking up towards the statue. She learned some stuff somewhere else. Poof, she turns the statue back. The end. Remember when I said the whole magic thing was so underdeveloped? Like, why sort of set it up? Because in a way, this now kills the entire thing of ever writing another book. Because what's the point now? It's entirely unfulfilling. Because the interesting bit would have been in what does she do when she goes away? Who does she meet? What does she learn? And that's just what we skip. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm not happy with this. I feel like there was room for improvement. I like the idea, but the execution, nah, not so much. Anyway, that's it from me for today. Thank you. Bye.